Daddy, how do I look?
Luna twirled in front of the mirror, admiring how her skirt flowed as she turned.
Owen sat in an armchair, smiling at her, and Mrs. Olsen stood by the fireplace, wiping away her tears.
You look beautiful, sweetheart. You'll be the most beautiful girl in the school and the smartest one too. Owen chuckled. Mrs. Olsen, you always say the best. Is this the best?
Well, can't you just look at her, Mr. Miller?
Mrs. Olsen exclaimed. Well, I guess this time I'll have to agree with you. Mrs. Alton, she looks impeccable.
As Owen gazed at his daughter, his mind drifted back to the days when this little girl came into his life. He couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude towards his so-called tough character, which had led to Luna being raised by him.
Owen was a highly motivated and determined individual who had a strong passion for the banking industry throughout his career. He worked tirelessly to achieve his goals and was never satisfied with mediocrity. He was always looking for ways to improve himself and make a positive impact in the world of finance.
Owen's ambition was contagious, and he inspired others to strive for excellence in their own careers.
He was known for his intelligence, drive, and unwavering commitment to his work.
He was a true leader and an asset to the GKB Bank, where he's worked for almost 10 years. A few years ago, Owen, an ambitious banker, met Emma.
Their relationship was nothing serious, and Emma worked as a dancer at a club where Owen would occasionally go to unwind.
This club was a popular spot among entrepreneurs. During the day, they would conduct business there, and in the evening, they would let loose. As Owen sat at the edge of the dance floor, he couldn't help but fix his gaze on a new dancer that had just stepped onto the stage. Her name was Emma, and from the moment she began to move, Owen was captivated.
She was a vision of grace and fluidity.
Her every step was effortless and elegant. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was her dancing that truly left Owen spellbound.
The way she moved was nothing like he had ever seen before. Each gesture, each turn, and each leap were perfectly executed and full of emotion. Owen felt as though he was watching a work of art come to life before his eyes. She was completely enraptured by Emma's performance, and he couldn't take his eyes off of her. On their first night, he attempted to invite her to his place, tweeted, "You just completely blew my mind.
I want to see you dance just for me." He looked into her eyes, full of desire.
He was certain that she would be his, as he had always been able to have his pick of the dancers from the club.
Owen would almost always leave with someone.
Occasionally, when things were slow, he would go home alone.
Emma, the new dancer, gave him a lock that left him a little hesitant to take it back.
"Baby, you should just go.
I am dancing here, not selling myself." She turned around and walked away.
Owen stood there with his mouth open in surprise. Nevertheless, he quickly regained his composure and shook his head in admiration.
"She's either stupid or too smart.
She's just trying to keep her value high, and it looks like it's the latter." But Emma disappeared and never showed up again.
When Owen went to look for her, he found out that she had already gone home. This had never happened to him before.
He was so angry that he went home alone without trying to replace her.
He caught up with her only 2 days later, but she rejected them again. Owen was smitten with Emma, and he knew that he had to make her his.
He was confident and determined, and he was sure that he could win over her with charm and persistence.
However, what he didn't know was that Emma had a completely different perspective. She was a strong and independent woman who did not want to depend on anyone, especially a man. Emma had built a life for herself that was self-sufficient and fulfilling, and she was not interested in giving that up for anyone when Owen made his advances. She was polite, but firm in her rejection, despite his best efforts. Emma remained resolute in her decision to maintain her independence.
Owen was taken aback by her refusal, but he quickly realized that he had underestimated the strength and resolve of this remarkable woman, despite Emma's initial rejections.
She eventually became less strict with Olin, and they started dating.
Owen soon realized that their relationship was not what he had hoped for. Emma accepted his gifts without any show of gratitude or affection, and it was clear to Owen that she did not have the same level of feeling for him that he had for her. This only served to fuel Owen's anger and frustration, as he was becoming increasingly attached to Emma despite her lack of interest.
It irritated him that he was putting so much effort into the relationship only to be met with indifference from her. This inner conflict left Owen feeling confused and angry, and he found himself trapped in a situation where he did not know how to navigate.
Their relationship was tumultuous, like a fire or a natural disaster. Emma didn't listen to him at all. They either burned with passion for each other or they fought fiercely.
Owen was tired and exhausted by such a relationship.
One day, they were at Owen's place. They were having an argument about her lifestyle. At some point, he said, "That's it, quit your dancing. You're going to move in with me and start behaving all right."
Emma smirked and moved in with you, as well as my woman Owen, who understood what she meant.
"Emma, please hear me out.
I can't marry you.
You're a bar dancer."
I can't let everyone know that I'm engaged to a bar dancer.
"Of course not. You wouldn't," Emma replied. "I wouldn't have accepted your offer to live with you either. It's not good for someone as important as you to sleep with a bar dancer." Emma said that and turned around. Hit the road, Jack. Owen jumped up. He was furious. "Do you even understand what you're saying? I can leave, and you'll only regret it later, and I won't come back."
Owen was deeply offended by Emma's comment, which he felt was unjust. He couldn't contain his anger and responded with physical violence, hitting Emma in the face before storming out of the apartment, desperate to escape Emma's thoughts. Owen headed to the bar with the intention of getting drunk and forgetting all about her.
He ordered drink after drink, hoping that the alcohol would dull his senses and ease his mind.
At first, it seemed as though his plan was working.
The buzz from the alcohol made him feel carefree and relieved from the stress of his troubled relationship with Emma. However, as the night went on, Owen found that instead of forgetting about her, she was thinking about her more and more. Every glass of alcohol only seemed to bring her to the forefront of his mind. He was stuck in a vicious cycle of trying to forget and being reminded, and he knew that he wouldn't find any real peace until he could find a way to let go of his feelings for her. His anger led him to get into a fight, and he ended up breaking his nose. As he finally stormed out into the fresh air and began to sober up a little, he realized that all of his troubles and mishaps were caused by Emma. One night, after another drinking spree, Owen went to Emma's place without her permission, using his own key to enter her bedroom. It was early morning, and he stood in front of her bed for a moment, admiring her body, which was visible in the light of the night lamp.
Then he sat on the edge of the bed and started mumbling something.
Emma woke up, but she was still half asleep.
She didn't know what was going on.
Owen pulled a blanket off of her and laid next to her. Emma didn't say much at all, which was surprising for Owen.
She left in the morning, telling her that he would never let her go.
After that incident, Emma disappeared, and Owen couldn't find her.
Despite using all his connections, he struggled and became increasingly distressed.
He was willing to do anything to find her, even if it meant disregarding social norms and marrying her, but she was nowhere to be found in the following months. Owen came to realize how much of a terrible person he had been, and he deeply regretted his actions.
He even considered turning himself into the police for hitting Emma. He didn't know what had happened to her, but whatever it was, he wanted her to know that he was not proud of his past. At all times, he was willing to accept any punishment, but it seemed that something else was in store for him.
7 months had passed when one night the phone rang in his apartment.
"Is this Owen Jones?"
He got out of bed and answered, "Yes, it's me." The clock showed AM, and he assumed something had happened, but he couldn't think of anyone in his life who could be in trouble.
"We're calling from the maternity hospital."
"Do you know Emma Williams?" He didn't immediately understand what was going on.
"Yes, of course, but I don't understand anything."
"What does the maternity hospital have to do with it?" "Emma passed away during childbirth, but before her death, she left to know that the daughter she gave birth to is also your daughter.
She left a letter for you too."
At that moment, Owen could not believe what he was hearing.
He thought that he was going crazy or that it was a dream. He even pinched himself to make sure he wasn't dreaming. But when he realized that it was real, he said, "I'll be there right away."
Emma wrote in her note that she loved him very much, but she couldn't tolerate his past behavior. She asked him to raise their daughter as a real princess.
Owen had not cried in many years, but when he saw the baby, he couldn't hold back his tears. In order to take custody of Una, Owen had to go through a DNA test that confirmed his paternity. Then Mrs. Olsen came into their home and became the nanny housekeeper and an advisor on children's issues. 5 years had passed by in the blink of an eye, and Una had grown up before their very eyes.
From a curious and playful toddler, she had transformed into a bright and intelligent child. The person she was becoming, and watched in amazement as she explored the world around her and discovered new interests and talents.
Una's energy was contagious, and her infectious smile had a way of brightening up even the darkest of days.
She had grown so much in just 5 short years, and her family was looking forward to all the wonderful things she would achieve in the years to come. Today was an important day for Owen, as it was Una's first day of school. "It's time, Mrs. Olsen. Are you coming with us?" "On the woman's side, I would love to, but I have a pie in the oven and the meat is marinated. If you haven't forgotten, we have guests today in honor of the first day of school."
"Oh yeah, I completely forgot. Okay, I'll see you later."
"Of course. Good luck, sweetheart."
Owen went outside with his daughter, but she suddenly stopped and looked at her father with a look of horror on her face. "Dad, where's my backpack?" Owen opened the car door with a smile, and on the seat lay a beautiful backpack that Owen had prepared and placed there in advance. Una hugged her daddy.
"You're the best dad," she said.
Owen smiled and replied, "No doubt there were a lot of people at the school." Owen had thought about which school to send Una to for a long time, but she decided for herself, "Daddy,
"I don't want to go to a private school.
I'm going to go to the public school."
I have a lot of friends that are going to the public school." Owen thought that it would always be possible to transfer to a private school if necessary at the entrance to the school.
Una suddenly stopped and stared at something.
She then tugged sharply at her father's sleeve, causing Owen to become worried, thinking that she had stumbled or something else had happened. Una was looking towards a girl. Owen looked where she was pointing and froze, not far from them.
STU, the first grader, was the spitting image of Una. The girls were so similar that one would think they were twins. Their similar outfits and backpacks also intensified this feeling. Owen blinked several times, but he was seeing the same thing in the world. He firmly took Una's hand and began to make his way towards the girl.
She was standing sideways, and the woman standing next to her was apparently her mother.
Something vaguely familiar was about her, but Owen couldn't think of anything right now because he wasn't able to see her face as she was looking the other way. "Excuse me," Owen said that when the woman turned around sharply. Owen could hardly restrain the scream in front of him. STU, the woman who looked like Emma. But it was not Emma. Couldn't understand what was happening.
He had mixed feelings of anger and surprise. At that moment, the teacher came up and happily started talking to the children. Owen stood next to a woman who looked like Emma and remained silent. They didn't say a word. Owen's thoughts were in a jumbled mess in his head. He understood absolutely nothing. Just a few days ago, he and Una were at Emma's grave, and now Emma was standing in front of him.
As soon as the other parents with their children left for the classroom, Owen took everyone to the school park. "I think we need to get to know each other,"
Owen said. The woman looked at her daughter.
"My name is Charlotte.
I am Emma's twin sister. This is my little Evelyn." In Owen's head,
so many thoughts were running through that any psychiatrist would gladly study him. "Charlotte, I don't know how to explain all this, but even considering that you are sisters with Emma, our children have different fathers."
"Where does this similarity come from?"
Charlotte looked into his eyes, "and their fathers are also the same."
"You're the dad."
Charlotte's words hit Owen like a ton of bricks as he sat down, feeling as if he had been punched in the stomach. He struggled to process what she had just said.
He couldn't catch his breath, and his vision was clouded as the realization of what she had just told him started to sink in.
The thought of being a father to another girl was both exhilarating and terrifying, but he couldn't wrap his head around the question.
He was filled with a mix of emotions and couldn't help but think about how his life would change forever as he sat there, trying to regain his composure. Owen realized that his life was about to take a drastic turn, and he wasn't sure if he was ready. But that just could be true. "I've never known you or met you. I didn't even know that Emma had family and relatives.
She always said she was lonely. Emma has always been like that. She never listened to anyone and did everything she wanted.
When our mother died, She totally went off the rails with her supreme education and honors diploma. Emma decided to work as a dancer.
I tried to tell her and persuade her many times, but in the end, we quarreled badly and didn't talk at all that day. I came to her to try to talk again, but Emma was already out. She told me on the phone that I could spend the night at her place because she was going to hang out. I was tired and decided to stay, and that night you showed up. I tried to explain it to you, but you were unable to listen.
When Emma came in the morning, she found me in tears. I told her everything, and she just kicked me out.
A month later, I realized that I was pregnant. I just didn't know who you were. I recently found out that Emma is no longer with us and that she had a daughter. I realized today that when I saw you and Yuna, I was as shocked as you to see Yuna so similar to Evelyn. Owen sat down and tried to digest what he had just heard.
It could be true, he thought, but the little Evelyn was the spitting image of Yuna.
They were like two peas in a pod. It wasn't a dream. They all stood there for a while, not saying anything. Owen was still in shock, processing everything, and then he said, "I still don't know what we should all do next. I guess I should apologize to you first. I was really drunk, and I wasn't controlling myself. I was sure that you were Emma."
Well, you don't have to apologize anymore. If not for that incident, I would not have Evelyn. She's everything to me in this world. Owen sat in silence, taking in the news.
He suddenly felt a warm and comforting feeling in the pit of his stomach. It slowly dawned on him that, with this news, they could all be a family.
The idea was both thrilling and terrifying, but he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement about the possibilities that lay ahead. He could picture the four of them building a life together and creating new memories.
The thought of being a father to Evelyn and Yuna and building a family with Charlotte filled him with a sense of purpose and joy that he had never experienced before. Despite the fear and uncertainty, Owen knew that he was ready to take on this new role and be the best father he could be.
He looked at Charlotte with a newfound sense of love and admiration, grateful for the opportunity to start a family together.
Owen said to Charlotte, "Now you are not alone. Why don't you come with us to our family dinner tonight to celebrate the first day of school?" The girls, who were holding hands, happily agreed to the idea. Charlotte smiled and accepted the invitation. Owen was glad that the unexpected situation had turned out well, and he was excited to get to know his new family better. Owen offered for Charlotte and Evelyn to move into his house, as they were currently living in a cramped apartment on the outskirts. He argued that they had plenty of space and that they were not strangers to him. He also offered to take the girls to and from school and said that Charlotte could continue to work and focus on her personal life. But he also made a mental note to keep his feelings in check and to respect Charlotte's privacy and independence. Sr. He kept his feelings to himself and focused on being a good father to Yuna and Evelyn. He watched as the girls grew closer like sisters, and he saw how Charlotte had become a part of their family. He knew that he could not imagine his life without her and the girls, but he did not know how to tell her this. Owen went to Emma's grave and said to her, "I don't know what to do. I love Charlotte, and I can't imagine living without her. But I'm scared to tell her I'm afraid of losing everything."
Maybe she's afraid of the same fear of losing you.
Owen was surprised to see Charlotte standing by the fence with tears in her eyes.
He realized that she had also come to talk to Emma without hesitation.
He walked towards her and pulled her into an embrace. They hugged tightly, not letting go of each other for a long time.
The pain, fear, and uncertainty of the past year melted away as they held each other.
Owen finally confessed his love for Charlotte, and she returned the sentiment. From then on, they were a family. Owen, Charlotte, Yuna, and Evelyn, they grinned for Emma together, but also celebrated the new life they had built together. The past was behind them, and they were ready to move forward as a family. Owen and Charlotte continued to move forward together and had another child, a brother for Yuna and Evelyn. Mrs. Olsen, who helped take care of the children, felt up to the task of handling all three of them and declined the offer for additional help. Owen laughed and commented on how wonderful the Ward family was now that they were all together. They all lived happily ever after, and Owen knew that Emma would have been happy for him. He was grateful for the second chance and for the opportunity to love and be loved. He knew that he had to move on from Emma, but he would always remember her and the impact she had on his life. He was grateful for the family he had now, and he knew that they would always be there for each other through thick and thin.